Today, James is choosing between the Ghoul,
Ghoul.
Cry Wolf,
Oh, that's mine.
and The Loft. And yes, these aren't strictly horror, they're kind of thrillers, but we're going with it anyways.
Okay, mine is
Which one you picking, buddy?
that one.
You're going with that one? Probably the best of the three. Mommy hopefully will be happy.
I've always do it.
You always wanted to see that one?
Ghost again and ghost.
It's Ghosts.
And
It's a ghoul.
Ghoul? Ghoul, you're my ghoul.
Ghoul, that's right,
Ghoul. Me ghoul.
You're a ghoul?
And this and free ghoul.
Okay.
Free ghoul. And free ghoul, the my most.
Okay, do you predict that one's going to be good?
I did. Go with the key.
Okay.
Key.
Ghoul.
Ghoul?
Yes.
I did the ghoul today.
Okay.
I voted the.
So we're going to watch that movie now?
Oh, wait.
Uh-oh.
You can't change
You can't
your
change it.
mind.
We're going with Ghoul no matter what you pick at this point.
You really don't like that one.
No. I did the ghoul one.
You want the Ghoul one?
Oh, this is ghoul.
That's
One. Three ghoul. Three ghoul.
3 ghouls. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. But it says The Ghoul, I think.
Oh, there's just one ghoul.
Yeah,
oh,
one ghoul.
One ghoul.
Okay.
Three ghoul. And this seaside.
Okay.
Well, that was a ghoul.
Are we going to watch the movie now?
Three.
We're going to watch 3 movies.
Okay.
All right. Time to watch 3 movies. Here we go.
It seemed to start as a simple cold. Then authorities thought perhaps it was a standard flu. It wasn't long before it was clear that the world was dealing with something much, much worse. Countries tried denying entry, mandating shutdowns, and limiting travel. But it continued to spread. It spread to every corner of the globe, and it started mutating. Governments tried everything they could as thousands upon thousands were dying. Civil unrest began to spread. Now, almost 2 years into the pandemic, as the bodies are piling up, the worst has happened.
Hello and welcome to another 31 Days of Horror 2021 video. Today we are going to be talking about The Ghoul. Yes, this is an Arrow Video Blu-ray release from executive producer Ben Wheatley. Yeah, and now I will start off by saying that despite the name The Ghoul, right? This is like barely horror. I probably wouldn't include it, but I think I need to this year because I'm not sure if I'm going to make my 31 movies. Yeah, I probably... looking at the cover and the name, I thought this was like guaranteed horror movie. But now after having watched it... It is less a horror movie and more like a psychological thriller / drama. Which, I mean, you know, Silence of the Lambs falls into the psychological thrillers, and there's lots of movies that fall into that most people who are horror fans consider horror movies. Though, you know, if they're trying to classify it, it doesn't get lumped into the horror category. directly. But this I don't know. I comment down below if you think The Ghoul, if you've seen it, if you think it's a horror movie. I'm including it whether you think it is or not, but that's just what it is. The film is from 2016. It runs at just under an hour and a half long. The film is about like a homicide detective who goes undercover as a patient to investigate a psychotherapist he believes is like linked to some kind of this double murder that's kind of like got some strange things going on with it. And as his therapy sessions continue, as he goes through these sessions with this psychotherapist, the line between what is fantasy and reality, what is real and what is not real type thing, begins to blur. Let's see what they say here. Okay, so we'll read the back because it gives a little bit more information. As Chris is a homicide detective called to London to investigate a strange double murder. So he's sort of called in from out of jurisdiction, which is important but is not important at the same time. It's a detail that affects a couple of other things that happen in the film, but it didn't have to be, really. Both victims appear to have continued moving towards their assailant despite multiple gunshots to the face and chest. And this is where the ghoul comes in. So these people have been shot, but they keep coming, right? So as we know, unless you're shot and killed, especially if you're on any drugs or anything like that, you can definitely continue towards somebody who's shooting you. But it was very odd in this instance, so they call in this other guy, right? On a hunch, and with the help of an old colleague and former girlfriend, Chris decides to go undercover as a patient to investigate the suspect's psychotherapist, the mysterious Alexander Moreland, who has a taste for the occult. Now, that portion there kind of skips ahead. We'll just say that. This is the debut feature of writer-director Gareth Tunley, and it's starring Tom Meaton, Alice Lowe, and Dan Renton Skinner. So, yeah. Let's get into the people involved before I start talking about the film itself. So, like I just mentioned, it was written and directed by Gareth Tunley, who had previously written and directed some television episodes for shows that honestly I've never heard of. But it's a British film. We only get the real popular stuff over here from the BBC and such. So it's not unheard of to have something, especially television shows from other countries that we've never seen over here or even heard of. But that's it. Like you said, this was his feature debut. Chris, the detective, is played by Tom Meaton. And previous to this, he was in Burke and Hare. He did Sightseers, Tank 432, which I believe Scream Factory put out on Blu-ray. Prevenge, which a lot of people, I think Shudder had that one. As well as a variety of shorts and TV appearances. And this is one of the things where everybody involved in this movie, they're not like unknowns. Like it's not that they've never done anything. It's just, to me, maybe to most people in North America, probably don't recognize them. But if you're from Britain, any viewers from Britain, if you know any of these people and you know their stuff, like you would recognize them, give me a shout below and be like, oh yeah, I loved him in blah 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 blah. But I'm just essentially trying to pick out the genre related works, so horror, sci-fi, action, fantasy, that kind of stuff. Then we've got Alice Lowe, who plays Kathleen, the old university friend, girlfriend, old girlfriend. And she was in Hot Fuzz. She was also in Sightseers and Prevenge. But she was also in Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which I believe was a Netflix exclusive, and I don't think we ever watched it. It was one of those ones where interactive, I think. She was also in Dark Encounter, as well as a ton of other non-genre roles. And we've got Neam Cusack as Fisher, which is the first psychotherapist. And I will get to that. See, they mentioned, going after the guy and he's into the occult, but that's the second psychotherapist, so I'll start fleshing this out a little bit. We've got Rufus Jones as Coulson, who is a person with bipolar disease. I guess you'd call it a disease, I don't know, syndrome, who's undergoing psychotherapy with Fisher. And he's been in various TV series and non-genre movies, but also did a ton of voice work for video games, including the Xenoblade Chronicles and the sequel, as far as that. Then finally we've got Jeffrey McGivern as Moreland, who is the second psychotherapist that was on the back of that cover. And he's probably the most seasoned of all the actors here. He's in a ton of TV series appearances, but was also in Thunderpants, if you've seen that. I think it was a kid's film. I've seen it once, maybe twice. Stardust, but maybe he's best known for his role as Frank in the TV series Free Reign, which I don't know that it ever really came over here, but I mean it had, I have heard of it. I just don't know if I've ever seen it on any streaming television or physical media. Probably has, but either way. So let's get back to this. So we've got the first psychotherapist, which is where he's directed to originally. And there he meets the Coulson character who's, going to this psychotherapist. Essentially, it's all, clues and stuff that are kind of leading him down this road. And eventually he befriends this patient, and there's a possibility, okay, maybe it's the psychotherapist, maybe it's this guy, just putting up possible suspects or possible things, right? And eventually the first psychotherapist, can't see him anymore, but between that person and this person with the bipolar, ends up at this Moreland psychotherapist. So Moreland happens to be the second psychotherapist that he attends in the investigation of this murder thing. And yes, there is some things about him being, into the occult, because he has books on the occult and some weird artifacts and stuff like that. But, I mean, there was a time period where lots of people had stuff on the occult, right? Like, you remember the Unsolved Mysteries days and the X-Files and all that, that time period. There were a lot of people who were into ghosts and the occult. I mean, heck, an entire television station changed from their science and nature programming over to weird occult stuff, right? You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, so that I don't find as weird, but this is the way the movie goes. It kind of dwells on it. And yeah, so that's essentially it. So, and it's weird because this detective who's been pulled in, it's hard to tell whether he is playing a role undercover or if he is actually in need of like the therapy. Because even when he's not in his sessions, he doesn't seem to be like all there, very normal type, which I mean sometimes happens with detectives and people who have to deal with murders and stuff on a regular. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't quite. It was hard to tell, and I'm guessing it's intentional, whether this detective was, really a detective and trying to solve this case, or if this person was just somebody who was kind of needing help. I don't know. But I'm of the camp of, when it comes to movies, I like either things that are very, linear and tell the story, or are so off the wall that you have to interpret everything. When you kind of blur it and put it together and you don't know, like it's never really clear, I find, like, I want to enjoy watching the movie. I don't want to have to sit there and dissect it in real time, as to what's going on and why people are the way they are. If things don't click to me, which in this case I was kind of like I puzzled by it, like why is this, like, the detective never comes across as this confident, oh, I know what I'm doing, this is how I need to go down this route to solve this case. He never really comes across that way, which you would think would have to be the case if you're being brought in from the outside to, the city. The city has their own detectives. Let's be honest. They're going to have their own detectives who do murder cases. So why would you be bringing in somebody from the outside? Because it's not like he's really pawned off as being an expert in the weird or any of that kind of stuff that you would expect to be the case in this instance. And it's not like this is a case that's been going on for a long period of time. At least that's not the impression I got. It seemed to be a pretty fresh case that they're bringing this guy into because they don't know what to do with it. I don't know. It just seemed the whole situation seemed a little weird and didn't really, make sense in my head. So, that being the case, the fact that the movie is like 90% this guy in therapy sessions, like, it is most of the movie is him talking with the first therapist and then him talking with the second therapist. And then in between, sessions and stuff, he'll meet up with, say, the Coulson character or with his ex-girlfriend, or he'll make a phone call or whatever, or he'll be at home or something along those lines. Like it essentially just pieces one session to the next session to the next session. Nothing's really ever fleshed out. It's not like he's actually doing any actual investigating. This is the thing. He's just talking about what is, I guess, himself, or whether he's making it up or he isn't making it up. I don't know. But it's one of those things where it's like, what? Like, he's not really investigating the murders. He's just sort of talking to these people and getting a sense of who they are. I mean, he does pull information here and there. Like, he will pull, I'm going to go into their files, and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know. It just, the movie, I mean, it flows, but it doesn't flow in a sense that really makes sense. And this is the thing, they liken it to, say if, you know, like, they liken it to Finch and Twin Peaks type thing, where things are a little weird. But Twin Peaks was weird, and you knew it was being weird, right? Like it was a cool weird. This isn't being that cool weird. It's just, it's like they're trying to sell this film on the, like, turn the negatives into a positive, right? Like they're trying to sell what's bad about the film as an intentional thing, and it I don't know, it didn't come across as being some smart thing. I mean, you get to the end, you get your, we'll call it, I guess, twist ending or whatever, but it's like there have been tons of movies with almost a similar type idea, you know, less about just sitting in psychotherapy sessions, but, you know, same type of story idea with a similar type ending, and they did it better. They had more, you know, they were more entertaining, they were more direct, there was something about them where it's like, okay, blah blah blah, and when you get to the ending, okay, here's your twist, or here's your whatever it is, and you're like, oh, haha, yeah, okay, yeah, and you either saw it coming or you didn't see it coming. And this one, I'm just like, I didn't even care by the time I got to the end what the hell was happening, because nothing was happening throughout pretty much the entire film. It was just like watching paint dry. It was just boring. Like, there's no, you didn't feel for anybody, you didn't care about anybody, you weren't entertained, there wasn't anything, like, it wasn't, usually when you have like a murder mystery or a detective story or something along those lines, you want to try and figure things out, and they give you clues, and this one just, it didn't have that feel. It didn't have any of that. It didn't have, you know, scares. It didn't have, you know, blood. It didn't have the psychological draw, the suspense, the solving aspects. All the things that you would probably want to see in a film like this just weren't there. That being said, I do think everybody involved in terms of the acting side did a fantastic job. And I will say, in terms of the directing, yeah, the film was directed well for what it was. It was just a terrible story. Like, there wasn't, like, considering it was written and directed by somebody who was the same person, there was no that outside input of, oh, let's try this, let's try that, right? Like, it was just, there's the story I wrote, and I'm going to tell it, and it just wasn't a good story. That being said, if I'm going to rate it, I'm going to say it's like a 2.5 out of 5. I don't even know if I want to keep this movie. I normally don't get rid of films, but I don't know. Maybe I'll go through the special features in this one and try and get a little bit more of an understanding about what we were trying to do. And sometimes that gives me a better appreciation of a film. But as it stands, I wouldn't give it a recommend. Honestly, it's almost like, I mean, I get Arrow's a British company. This is a British film. You kind of need to pad out your library. You can't spend all your money on the big titles. You do have to get some, indie gems and other films and such in there to your releases to pad it out and give more of a variety. But, yeah, not impressed with that whatsoever. But then again, maybe I'm just looking at it the wrong way. Let me know if you've seen the film and what you thought about it. Try and keep it spoiler-free as much as possible. But am I in left field here? Am I even in the ballpark? Am I just I don't know why I'm using baseball references, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, not my cup of tea. Just I was not feeling it. Luckily, I didn't make Leslie watch it. Not that she's going to watch any of the rest of the films this month, but I did offer. I gave, showed her to her, and she read it, but she was just like, "Nah, I'm not feeling it." Which is too bad, because reading it, I thought this might have been something that she might have been into. Definitely wouldn't have been. Definitely wouldn't have been. That's for sure. Anyways, more 31 Days of Horror to come. Comment down below. Do love to hear from you, especially about this movie. What did you think? Till next video, take care. Have a good one.